tell me what you're trying to say in this book. Because we don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is race-mongering has been very bad for America. Liberals use it to promote causes that have nothing to do with blacks and, in fact, harm blacks. Not
you know
innocent
what?
black
Hold up,
criminals.
Miss Coulter. Please stop. Please stop. If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being black.
Well, this isn't about being black.
Well, but you just said you just made all these statements about how black people feel.
Not a book about black people. It is a book about white liberals. And I do know, and this is a fact, that once for years, Republican policies on crime and welfare, for example, were called racist. When they finally got implemented after the O.J. verdict, I might add, by Giuliani in New York, Reagan and Bush judges overall, tens of thousands of black lives were saved. That is a fact. I don't have to know about being black.
Buckle up, because this next segment is pure chaos in motion. When the Queens of the View locked horns with conservative firebrand Ann Coulter, it wasn't just a clash. It was a cultural explosion. Sparks flew as the conversation spiraled into a no-holds-barred battle over race, history, and America's soul. Every panelist came in hot, voices rising like a pressure cooker about to blow. But here's the real kicker. Watching this now is like peeking into a time capsule that shows just how fast the national conversation has flipped. The talking points? Outdated. The takes? Unfiltered. Ann Coulter? She didn't just push back. She bulldozed her way through, sometimes swerving into wild territory that left even the most opinionated hosts stunned. Trust me, you're not ready for the verbal carnage that's about to hit your screen. This isn't just a debate, it's a showdown. Let's dive in.
Please welcome the very controversial Miss Ann Coulter. Ann. All right. Okay, I need you to tell me what you're trying to say in this book. Because we don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is race-mongering has been very bad for America. Liberals use it to promote causes that have nothing to do with blacks and, in fact, harm blacks. And that excellent lead-in you just gave about O.J., I mean, I think that was the moment, having lived near New York City in the 70s and 80s, which was the golden era. It was like Trayvon Martin and Duke Lacrosse case every day. With the O.J. verdict, white America said, that's it, the white guilt bank is shut down. And that ended up being the best thing that ever happened.
This is where things go from tense to downright explosive. Ann Coulter's take on the O.J. Simpson case isn't just controversial. It's drenched in sarcasm and sharp-edged generalizations. While she rips into the left for identity politics, she's playing the same game, just in reverse. The View panel dodges the legal meat of the case, focusing instead on the racial drama. And Coulter? She charges in with claims from her book, Mugged, that are jaw-dropping, accusing Black Americans of cheering criminals based on race and comparing it to Manson, Dahmer, and Ramirez. It's provocative, it's reckless, and it's exactly the kind of fuel that turns debates into firestorms. What happens next? Pure chaos.
So we could just skip that for a second and get to the Southern strategy.
Yeah.
Because I've specifically disproved it. It's an absolutely liberal folklore. Republicans were winning the South since 1920. It was the outer states of the South. It was Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia.
Voting. What are you talking about? We weren't allowed
who was
to vote.
trying to get them to vote? Republicans were.
Yeah,
and the first black congressmen were all Republicans. And the first black governor was a Republican.
You're talking about way back.
That
Republican
Republican then is so different from
That is definitely what we're told. But in fact,
that bad.
the Democratic segregationists were all liberal Democrats. It is a lie that they were conservative Democrats.
Everybody was a segregationist, darling. You know,
The
basically,
Republicans weren't.
everybody was. White people were. It didn't matter whether they were Republicans.
Now, this is the kind of topic that turns into a battlefield fast, because neither side wants to back down. But the truth, it's staring everyone right in the face. Denying the existence of the Southern strategy is like pretending the sun didn't rise. It's not just revisionist, it's dishonest. Ann Coulter's attempt to erase or deflect from it doesn't help her case. It undermines it. If anything, she could have gained ground by calling it what it was, a cynical, racially charged tactic from a different era. But instead, she digs in, denying a strategy even the GOP itself has admitted to. And here's the bombshell. RNC Chair Ken Mehlman publicly owned up to it in 2005, saying flat out that Republicans had used race as a political wedge. That wasn't some vague apology. It was a full-blown admission of guilt. And let's be real, the Democrats weren't saints either. Plenty of their own broke off after the Civil Rights Act. History is messy, but the first step to healing it, stop rewriting it.
It seems to me that voter suppression is happening in areas where black people and Hispanics are, and it really is being promoted by the Republicans, not the Democrats. So in my view, and I have a different one from you, it looks as though the Republicans are really going against blacks, not the liberals.
No, and this
what
is
do you
a
say to
perfect
that?
example. Yes, it is, and it's a perfect example. No, I'll explain why. Of liberals using the label of civil rights to promote a liberal cause they support, i.e. voter fraud. In fact, one of the first states in the union to pass voter ID bills was Rhode Island, 85% Democratic legislature. And who pushed it? A black Democrat in the House, a black Democrat in the Senate. That's a fact.
Out of all the chaos in that panel, this topic was probably the least explosive. Yet it still managed to hit a nerve, thanks to Ann Coulter's reputation catching up with her. Her comments might have sounded measured here, but anyone familiar with her past knows better. Take her recent jab during the GOP primary debates. She called the Haley vs. Ramaswamy clash Hindu business and told Nikki Haley to go back to her country. That's not just offensive, it's downright toxic. No party looking to grow its base should ever co-sign that kind of rhetoric. It's not bold, it's not edgy, it's self-sabotage. And while the View panel could have gone deeper, instead, we got the usual surface-level scolding, Whoopi cutting in mid-sentence, and everyone talking over each other. But what it does expose is this. America's racial wounds didn't vanish with court verdicts or political speeches. They're still pulsing, shaped by decades-old trauma, still bleeding into today's discourse.
Every book that you write is very controversial and shocking, and it's usually an opinion that's disparate with everybody else's.
Right.
Do you just write these books and try to find whatever it is that's going to make everybody say,
It's an excellent question. The reason I write these books is because I try to correct things that people believe that are just false.
You keep saying if you would read chapter 14, you make such divisive comments and incendiary comments and hateful comments at times. It makes people not want to pick up your book and read it.
So people who agree with her read it.
Yeah, well, people agree with
No,
you.
I don't think so. You name a hateful comment in here.
When you talk about you stay in the past, that Republican
No,
was
only
back
because it
then.
was brought up. There's only one chapter on the past, and I mean, it's just a...
There's something striking about seeing Barbara Walters at that table. Her presence brought a rare balance to The View, something sorely missing in the current lineup where nuance often takes a backseat to noise. Segments like this aren't just heated TV moments, they're snapshots of how far, and how little, we've come in talking about race. Even just a decade ago, the tone, the framing, the urgency, it was all different. But what hasn't changed is the need to cut through the media theatrics and face one hard truth. No side has a spotless record when it comes to race in America. Owning that uncomfortable reality is exactly how we've made progress, and the only way we'll keep moving forward instead of staying chained to the same old cycles.